If you've been thinking about selling a machine to someone across the country or buying a machine from someone across the country, I hope this episode helps. Before the experience that I'm about to describe, I had the opinion that I only wanted to buy and sell locally. And that's because I didn't want to have to deal with shipping across the country. Since then, I've sold one machine to someone clear across the country, and then I purchased another machine from someone almost all the way across the country. Let me show you the machines and give you an idea of what was involved in that process. The first machine weighed about 1,200 pounds when it was packed, including the hydraulic fluid, and this is a machine that I purchased and needed to have shipped here. The second machine was my Taig that weighs about 200 pounds, and I was shipping this to a buyer in New York. Watching channels like A-Bomb, one of the things I learned is that the packaging is the most important thing about shipping a machine across the country. He has shown examples of poorly packed items that didn't make it very well across the country because the box in which they were contained was not really well built. I mean, using cardboard for something that weighs 200 pounds makes no sense. So when I was looking around for a way to ship, I asked around and learned about Fastenal. Actually, I learned about Fastenal from A-Bomb's channel as well, where you can drop something off at one of their stores and then they'll ship it to their corresponding store across the country. In the case of my Taig, this worked out really well because there's a Fastenal store a few miles from my house, and there's also a Fastenal store a few miles from the house of the person who is buying my Taig. So then the next thing was to disassemble the Taig and carefully box it into wooden crates such that none of the parts could move around, because moving around in transit is what causes a lot of the damage. So you can see here I'm putting it into various crates and boxing it up. And then I took it to the Fastenal place. They put it onto a pallet, and then after I left, they shrink wrapped it and sent it off to New York. And that worked out really well. And I think it was about $400 to send it from here to, actually no, it was $250 to send it from here to New York, which wasn't bad. The other machine is an injection molding machine built in 1972. That's the one that weighed 1,200 pounds, I think, when they shipped it. And I learned about it on Facebook. It was an opportunity that I couldn't pass because it's, a perfect machine for me. And I'll get into the details of that in a separate video. The first thought I had was to use Fastenal again. But the question was, how do I get the machine from a residence to Fastenal and then from Fastenal to my residence? That would require a liftgate truck on both ends, and I looked into renting liftgate trucks, and it was getting expensive fairly quickly. So I went on to Facebook and asked people on the YouTube Machinist channel, the forum, what they suggested for shipping a machine across the country, and got a lot of suggestions, and then ended up receiving an email from someone I know from work who is now with a startup called GoCoho.com. So I tried there as well as all the other places, and GoCoho actually had the best prices, and it was a well-known carrier that they were using, which is FedEx. Now, I'll show you the website, and there are a couple of important things that I learned. The first is, once I selected residential, I could select that I needed a liftgate. And then what also happened is I didn't know what number to fill in for the freight class. I didn't even know what it was. And so I kind of gave up on GoCoho, but then they called me. And the person who called me walked me through the process, gave me a lot of information, gave me a lot of comfort. And so I decided to go with them, and I'm glad I did because the result was quite good. FedEx did a great job, and the price was good as well. I paid about $700 including insurance for the whole process. The only thing that they required is that the machine be in not just on a crate, but on a pallet. They also required that it be crated. So I contacted the seller and he said no problem, he would put it into a crate. And as you can see from this photo, he put it into a crate. Then about a week later is when the machine arrived. They called me ahead of time, scheduled a time slot for them to come, which was great. One of the challenges, of course, is this is a pretty heavy machine. And so it took the two of us to pull it over one of the lips on the van to get it onto the lift gate. And then once it was on the lift gate, it was pretty easy for him to pull it himself and work its way into the garage. Then we ran into another issue, and the issue we ran into is that he couldn't pull the pallet jack back out. Before he pulled it off the truck, I had noticed that it looked like there was some damage to the pallet. And this is where we get back to the comment about making sure that you pack it very well. I think it's pretty clear in retrospective that the pallet was not a new pallet. The pallet has some issues. The machine has supports in, I think, 4 places, and so there wasn't enough reinforcement underneath the pads above the pallet to keep the pallet from breaking. But that wasn't what was keeping the pallet jack from coming out. What kept the pallet jack from coming out was actually a chain from another part that had drooped down below the pallet. So when you're packing, make sure that you think about all these types of things and make it easier to ship the machine across the country. Anyway, as you can see, the machine is here, and I will have other videos about the machine itself. I hope you found this content useful. I learned a lot in the process and now understand much better how to ship things across the country either way, either selling or buying. And so the next time I find something that is really hard to find, like the injection molding machine that I purchased, I will know exactly what to do and feel a lot more comfortable about it. Please give me a thumbs up, comment below, and subscribe. All of those things help recommend my videos to other people and help my channel grow. See you next time.